Cares.
I care.
Happy birthday, Ashley.
Thanks.
I'm not.
Anyways, questions.
Patrick, the last two games you guys allowed a combined 6 points in the second half. Just what are you seeing from the team that is able to like make those necessary adjustments in the second half for you guys to play so well in the final two quarters?
One thing, the guys are doing a good job at halftime coming in, recognizing what the team is trying to do in the first half, and really they and the coaches have done a great job of adjusting the game plan to attack whatever the strengths they had in the beginning part of the game, and the guys have had the discipline to stay with it throughout the second half. So that's been a positive, something to grow off of.
What kind of a role when you're making those adjustments at halftime, when you're trying to figure things out? What kind of role does the veteran linebackers have in that having seen all that they've seen?
There's a lot of feedback that goes on. Like, hey, what are you seeing? Do you remember this formation? Just a lot of communication between myself, the coaches, and the players. So whether it's veteran, I mean, some of the younger linebackers, you talk about the Patriots game. Tommy came in, he's a young linebacker, so it's really what they're seeing, and then can we get to what we want to get to? Can we take this away? It's just all about communication. Doesn't matter age or experience, it's just about communication.
Jamal, what have been your impressions of Jamal Adams as he continues to play in this new role at linebacker?
The thing that stands out, he really enjoys the game of football. He's a competitor. I watched him from afar for a long time, but just to have him now within the system, he's disruptive as a blitzer. He's disruptive as a force player in the run game. He's disruptive in the underneath coverage in terms of just knowing how to match routes. So that's all been positive in terms of the football. And then I like being around him. At 46, I'm getting a little bit older. It's good to have guys you like to be around. I tell our guys all the time, I like our group. I like being around them. I enjoy being around the coaches. So it makes work, enjoyable.
Whether it's Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota at quarterback, what makes this Commanders offense, what stands out to you about this offense that makes it such a challenge?
Well, Coach Kingsbury, he does such a good job of putting, I would say, the intermediate defenders in conflict and the edge players in conflict. So that's like when I describe the offense, I'm sitting there like, listen, you're going to be in the kitchen. If you're a hook player, you're going to be in the kitchen somehow, some way, whether it's eye candy, whether it's a run-pass conflict, whether it's formationally. So they do a real good job with that. And then the fact that they have, the young quarterback who is dynamic but has great poise and great control and can see things out there on the field, or Mariota, who's done it for a long time. And then you add the element of them being able to move. I mean, then they start to pull those hook players or they start to pull those edge players. It's just a lot of conflict going on while they have the vertical passing game too. It's tough. It's tough.
Talk about that eye candy and kind of how they like to move guys around. Deebo Samuel's obviously going to be one of those guys. They're going to use his eye candy. Just can you talk about his game and just kind of like how you believe he'll be used?
He's one of the elite offensive players in the league. Got a lot of respect for him because you look at it, and I'm always amazed at what these guys can do. They have him in all these different spots. Then the intellect and the intelligence needed to be able to execute that, and then to be able to make split-second decisions. And then on top of that, where he's at physically, being able to move and be able to break tackles because he's a receiver. He's good at that. When he catches the ball, he runs like a running back. He's compact like that. So I'm always amazed at how these guys are able to handle so much, and he's been doing it for a while.
Coach, can you talk about the development of Isaiah Polamalu?
I mean, y'all ask me that every week. I loved him from day one. Okay. When he started tackling people, I loved him. Okay, so he started that, but he just developed into a leader. I thought, Chris Ash did a good job with him, helping him out when he was younger. Then we had GA last year, and GA really brought him along. He's had some really good coaches. He's had some really good mentors around him, whether it was Trayvon, whether it's Marcus Epps, Deron Harmon. He's been around some good ball players at that position that have some experience, and he's sort of like a sponge taking all that information in. And then now, he's older, has a kid. He's just maturing as a man, and you can see the command out there. I remember when he was younger, I said, safeties, you got to be kind of jerks in the meeting room sometimes. You got to be like, Pat, why are we doing this? Like he would never do that. Now, Pat, hold on, go over that. What's this for? I'm like, there we go. Now you're a safety. I mean, they're just not, Logan Ryan and all those guys. They're just naturally jerks like that. But they got to be. They got to be. They got to be.
There was talk on the telecast about how the involvement of Tom Brady, talking to Chip, talking to you, I guess some texts back and forth. What has that involvement been like, and is that something that you welcome coming from a Tom Brady?
Thankfully for me, my career started, and Tom was the quarterback, and I'm thankful for everything he did. I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for Tom Brady, period, point blank. All the games we won, all the advice I got from him just from practice. When I was a QC, they do a good job of making you step up to their level. So, like, that's my relationship with Tom in terms of he's made me better as a football coach. He's encouraged me when I've been down throughout my career. He's always reached out like that. So, like, and I'm just thankful that I've been a part of his life, and thankfully he's been a part of my life. I mean, he's the best to ever do it.
Does it take some getting used to that in his role now that he might reach out to you, or is that?
No, I was with him for 7 years. I mean, we're all close. We're won a lot of games together. We're all close.
After the game, you have a young running back to prepare for in Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. How do you see him and your approach to defending against him, especially with Austin Eckler now out of the game as a change of pace back?
When you look at it in Coach Kingsbury's offense, the backs are utilized to get. It's a downhill running game. You think about all the spread and stuff like that, but it's a downhill running game. So he's pretty good at hitting the second level pretty quick. So that's one thing we pointed out with the group, whether it's with the pullers, whether it's the zone scheme, but his ability to get downhill into the second level, which is a big part of their offense, is pretty impressive.
Is the skill set between Daniels and Mariota close enough that the preparation this week kind of stays the same, or have you had to spend a little more time on Mariota just in case?
I don't want to sell either one of those players short. They're each individual, so my job is to be prepared for both of them, and then I give the players as much information that's needed. So I mean, they're different. I've never had a quarterback that's all the same. So I mean, they're all. You talk about two guys that were the number 2 pick in the draft when they came out. So I mean, the skill sets, they're high. I'll put it that way, and then we got to adjust from there.
A big story through camp was filling the void of Christian Wilkins. How have you seen the defensive tackle room take shape?
They followed. I think they followed the leaders in the room. You have AB, who's like a pro's pro in terms of his approach and in terms of how he works his craft and his technique. Max in there, Jonah, all those guys, they work so well together. So again, next man up mentality, I would assume you have to ask them, but they just work so well together. They challenge each other on everything from, they're out there playing hoops, right, or whatever they're doing. They're always challenging each other. So I wouldn't expect anything more from them to just keep improving because of how they challenge one another.
Let's do one more. Vinny. All right, thank you.
Good, thanks. Yes, thank you.
Afternoon. Afternoonish. We're after 12, yeah, so afternoon.
If there was talk on the broadcast on ESPN about Tom Brady's involvement and talking, with you during the course of the week, was that within the proper context, do you feel, or anything taken out of context with that in terms of his involvement?
Well, I don't know what was said on the broadcast because we don't watch the games, but Tom's involvement with me is I spent a lot of time just talking football with him, but it's not we don't talk about game plans we spent a lot of time over the summer, a couple Zooms. He was traveling all over the place. I was away, and we would just talk ball. What did you like against this? So really, when I use Tom, and I just use him as a resource of, hey, when you faced a Mike Zimmer type defense, what did you like protection-wise and play-wise? But on a weekly basis, he's not game planning with us or talking to us. I know the week of the Patriots game, I actually heard from him in the morning of the game. He sent me a text saying good luck in the opener. Touch base after the game, that was it. And then, I knew he was coming into this game. He sat in the box when we played San Francisco, I think, in the preseason game, but he doesn't talk to the coaches when he's up there. I think he's watching football. But in terms of weekly game plans, that's not a collaboration that we do. He's also a busy guy, so I haven't even thought of using him to do that, and I don't think you can. So, our staff does all that, but he's been a guy that I can talk football with, just shooting it about, hey, have you ever faced a two-trap defense or the inverted Tampa 2 that everybody's running out? If you ever see, what was your best thoughts about that? Things like that. But we don't talk game plan at all or any of that stuff in terms of on a weekly basis. So.
When you look at the film, just from a run blocking standpoint, what do you think you guys can clean up on?
Yeah, I mean, every play has its own individual entity to it. So on this play, all 5 guys blocked it right. Ashton hits it. The second play of the game, they blitzed off the front side edge, and we blocked it up perfect. Ashton got to a 12-yard gain, ran through the safety. Unblocked player was the safety and ran through him and made a play. So I think you have to look at the individual plays. Sometimes it's a one-person breakdown. Did they step with the right foot? Did they get their hand placement in the right spot? It's a combination of all of those things when you take a look at it. But I think in the game from a run standpoint, I think what people have to realize is we were down 17-6 at half. Our first drive of the second half was a 20-play drive, and we came away with 3 because we had a penalty in the red zone. But then after that, we were in 2-minute mode, so we didn't run the ball as much as we did the week before. The week before, we were up, so we ran the ball more. So usually when you're up in the second half, you're running the ball more because you're running clock. If you're down, you're throwing the ball more. So when you look at the run-pass breakdowns by game, it's really what is the situation that presents itself. And we also had, I think, 8 passes right at the end of the first half because we had actually 2 2-minute drives in that portion of it too. So that sometimes can skew the numbers because you're not running the ball in 2-minute situations. And I think after that drive, when we got the ball back, there was 8 and change to go, and it was a 20-9 game. So it was 11-point score, and it was a 2-score game. So we kind of went back to 2-minute mode at that point in time. So you're going to throw the ball a little bit more in those situations.
In regarding to Geno, he's someone who has the utmost confidence in himself that he can make any throw on the field. What are those conversations like where you kind of have to tell him hey, you can't keep forcing the ball into double coverage or triple coverage as much as he did on Monday night?
Yeah, I think the one to Jacoby, I think it was an accuracy on the back shoulder. It was the right throw in that coverage. The defender had his back turned, but I think he probably wanted to locate that better. The other one, he was scrambling out of the pocket, and I think he was just trying to throw it up. You kind of hope sometimes in those situations there's a bunch of people down there, but you're going to get a PI. We're in a 2-minute situation, so I don't think he was forcing the ball into coverage or anything from that standpoint. So.
In that, I think it was a 2-minute drill. Where, obviously flashed. Is he starting to? Is that role?
He is. And I think there's a role for all of those guys, and I think you have to look that it's not just a 1-game season; it's a 17-game season. So, your ability to keep everybody fresh. You're thinking short term because you're playing games, but you're also thinking long term. You have 3 running backs up on game day, and so you got to be able to kind of distribute that. I think we felt. As a staff, Ashton played 54 snaps the week before, and that was a little heavy, So how do we use that? And Dylan's done a great job. Dylan's great in protection. Dylan does a great job as a receiver coming out of the backfield. So he handled the 2-minute for us, and then Zeus handled some of the third down stuff for us. Just so you're trying to spread those carries out, or really not those carries out because it doesn't matter if it's a run or a pass, but you're trying to spread out the amount of snaps in a game. If you have 3 running backs up and one guy's playing 55. And another guy's playing 3 and another guy's playing 2, over the course of the season, that guy's going to get worn down. And by the time you get where's our back? Well, we ran him out by game 8. So, I think you have to look long term. Last year actually, when at Ohio State, we had 2 great backs, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Junkins, and both of them ended up rushing in a 16-game season because we played in the playoffs through. They were both 1,000-yard rushers, but neither of them ever had 20 carries in a game. Over the course of the season, we knew from the beginning of the season to the end of the season that we need to protect these guys. And that if you could have seriously said, hey, let's give it to Travion 30 times in this game, and he would have had a hell of a game and done some other things. But what are the long-term effects of that, too? So I think you kind of have your eye on the game that you're in right then. And we have total confidence in both Zeus and Dylan when they get in a game that they're going to do things with the ball, and they both did good things when they get their opportunities too.
Were you always cognizant of that? I mean, I know analytics has come into the game. Was that something that you had to be tucked into, or did you?
No, we've always been that. I think especially when you get to the NFL, I've always said that cut down day when you come out here, you have 90 guys in camp, and you come out on cut down day, and you're like, where is everybody? We had 13 receivers, and now we have 5. And so now you're saying, all right, rep-wise, what do we do here? And how are we conscious about that, And I think it comes up all the time. You would love for Brock Bowers to play every play. You would love for Ashton Jeanty to play every play. But if you play Brock and Ashton or any of those guys every play in every game, by the time you get to game 8, you're not going to have guys left, because there's a certain amount of plays. In basketball, it's called load management. We're not sitting out games here, but I think you have to be conscious of over the course of 17 games. If some guy's carrying the ball 30 times a game, they only have so many carries in a season, and I mean, if you're gonna waste them, not waste them, but if you're using them early, then it's gonna hurt you late. So there tries to be a balance, and when you have depth, you have balance. There's some teams that don't have depth, so this guy's the guy because there's a huge drop off. When you have some depth, it's beneficial to make sure, because even in games where you're not getting 60 snaps, you're getting 70 snaps and 80 snaps. Well, if you didn't take him out in the first and second quarter, by the time you get to the fourth quarter, he's dead. And when you really need him, so you got to kind of, over the course of the game, you're hoping that you're getting in that 60 to 70 range. So how do we distribute those snaps? And that's really what Dylan's doing with those guys, and he handles all those substitutions. So.
Winning usage, a guy like Dante Thornton, who Gino's continuously trying to find down the field, trying to make something happen with. How important is it, do you feel, to keep him involved in the game plan as much as he is, to make sure that he's getting those reps?
I think it's important to keep all 5 guys involved in the game plan. You can't specifically just throw to one guy, because then the defenses are going to start to double that one guy and try to take that away. So, you got 5 eligibles on every play, and at some point in time you got to get it to him. And I think when we hit him on the shallow cross, he did an unbelievable job on third down and almost slipped out of the diving tackle by the safety, and that would have been an even bigger gain for him. But you saw his effectiveness against the Patriots, and I think the way it's going to be as the season expresses itself, there's going to be games where Jacoby's the leading receiver and Brock's the leading receiver, and then they may try to do some things to try to take him away, and that's when Tuck and Dante and the other guys have to step up. Mike Mayer, Mike did a really nice job, especially in the New England game. Especially on third down, made some real critical third down conversions for us and got us into field goal range at the end of the game. So, again, you're going to need all of your skill guys. You're going to need all 3 tight ends. You're going to need all 3 running backs. And you're going to need all 5 receivers that are up on game day to contribute to that.
From one New Hampshire Wildcat to another, how has your impression of Dylan changed from the day you got here to what you see of him right now?
Well, I don't think my impression has changed at all. When I got here, you could just tell he had an amazing work ethic. You could tell all the players on the team really respected him because of how he takes care of himself in the weight room, how he attacks the meeting room, how he attacks special teams. So, and I had heard all about him. He was, a superstar at the FCS level at New Hampshire, and rightly so, because he's a heck of a football player. But when I got here, I kind of expected what I saw, and that the guy has got an amazing work ethic to go along with a lot of talent. Like, I think he can continue to play in this league for a long time because he embraces any role you give him. There's nothing too big or too small for him. You want him to be on special teams and rush a punter, then he'd love to do that. You want him to be a kick returner, he'd love to do that. You want him to be a third down back, he'd love to do that. If we told him he was going to go, hey, we're going to switch and you're going to play defense now, I'd be like, all right, where do you want me to play? I mean, he's got that type of mindset. So, you need guys like that. He's a glue guy on this team, and I think all teams need people like Dylan on their team.
How unique is that connection that you have with him on a personal level with the New Hampshire?
Yeah, I wasn't there with him. I mean, we both went to the same school, and I know his coaching staff really well, and I know how fondly they thought of him. But I really, the first time I met Dylan was when I got here.
Insights of the defensive staff about Marcus?
Yeah, he's a stud football player and an even better human. I mean, he's one of the more special people I've had an opportunity to meet in my life. He's a class act. He's a hell of a player, and he's also a class act. And, if Jalen can't play and Marcus can, then these guys know him. He was here. Craig Olson coached him. Ole knows him really well. Ole's coached him at the professional level. I had him at the collegiate level. So we got the utmost respect. And I know, people, and I think Jalen's an unbelievable player. I saw Jalen play in high school, and I played against him in college too, and he's an amazing player. You're talking about 2 guys that were both Heisman Trophy winners, 2 guys that were both the second pick in the draft, and there's a reason for that. So, that drop-off is not it's something for our defensive guys that they're very conscious of that. So. You had one more?
I was going to ask, I know only one snap hit the ground, but did you notice any issues with the consistency of the snap?
Just the one that, and I don't know. I don't know if Jordan thought he was under because it looked like it hit him directly in the butt, like he thought maybe he was under. So it could have been a communication issue, but those are critical. Where the ball is located when you're snapping the ball is always critical, and it's something that Jordan works on all the time. And I think that was just a one-off in that situation. Thanks, guys.